Thank you for all the answers. I'm glad it isn't a personal problem with me, but I'm also very sorry that you have to constantly go through that whole better safe than sorry discomfort. I genuinely see this from an entirely different perspective now. Over the past few months, I've noticed that specifically guys closer to my age or maybe about 10 years older, I'm 18, entirely avoid sitting next to me on public transport, benches, etc. The bus or train could be packed, and not one of them would sit beside me. I started getting self-conscious about it, but I don't take up much space. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm fairly good looking and always get complimented on how I look and smell. I just want to reach a proper conclusion because it's getting ridiculous. Is it intimidation? What is it? Please tell me. I appreciate all the feedback, but I want to emphasize that this happens in really packed spaces like a bus or train full to capacity. They'd rather stand in discomfort, bumping shoulders and backs with everyone, rather than take a seat next to me. Story 1. You know all those women on TikTok posting videos of men being creeps for simply existing near them? We have no need or desire to be in one of those. Story 2. No one is intimidated by you or by sitting down. The reason you are avoided is that no one wants to make you feel uncomfortable or invade your personal space. Story 3. The last 10 years have sent a lot of messaging that women do not like men. Younger men are more likely to care about this and be risk-averse to being seen as a creep. Older men are less concerned about it. It could also be that you have a resting facial expression that seems unfriendly, and they do not want to risk being accused of something they did not do. Story 4. I have seen enough social media posts of men who are minding their own business being called creeps with pictures and videos simply for existing near a woman. I do not want to become a victim of someone's manufactured outrage. Story 5. An older man sits down next to a younger woman. Depending on how you look, the woman could be anywhere between 17 and 19. Do you think that older man wants to be sneered at or looked at like he is a potential predator? No, so he keeps it safe and maintains his distance. Let me give you an example scenario that might go through my head if the seat next to you is open, but there is also standing room. I am a big man, tall, broad-shouldered, work out regularly, and kind of scary looking. What if I sat next to you as a 28-year-old man, and someone across from us thought a 30-year-old just sat next to a 17-year-old and became uncomfortable? What if they thought I was trying to hit on you? So, to keep everyone alert, she filmed me and put it on the internet with a story that made me look like a disgusting human being. It suggests there was plenty of standing room and asks why I chose to sit next to a little girl. Now the whole town thinks I am dangerous and looks at me like I am trying to prey on people just because I chose to sit down instead of standing away from someone who looks young. If you think I am being paranoid, look up how many videos there are of women shaming men just for looking their way at the gym, or how many pull out their phones to scream at a guy who has been following them. On top of that, I had to listen to a coworker rant once about how a guy we worked with might be a potential predator because he, a 21-year-old man, liked an 18-year-old woman. No thanks, I will just stand. Do not take it too personally. Story 6. As everyone else has already commented, it is because many women will assume the man is sitting next to them not simply because they want a seat, but because there may be a creepy motive. It is a form of politeness, mainly because men have been taught to avoid approaching women or invading their space to prevent unnecessary confrontation or judgment. The extreme opposite is when a man sits next to you, starts talking to you, and does not get the hint that you just want to be left alone. That is a creep. Story 7. You are not scary, Miss Hot. They are just being polite, as men are taught to give women as much personal space in public as possible. Story 8. Because women choose the partner, men are not going to give them a reason to feel threatened. We are done. Story 9. A couple of reasons, 21 years old. 1. If I sit down and make someone feel uncomfortable, I will feel bad and it will hurt my self-esteem. I do not wish to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I would rather not be accused of anything I did not do. Admittedly, for number 3, there is a very low chance of something like this happening, but I appreciate the peace of mind and comfort that comes with sitting next to a guy. There is no need to be concerned about how our legs may be touching for all the reasons above. Story 10. It seems like women's favorite thing to do these days is to call men creeps for doing absolutely anything near them, including sitting next to them. Ladies, I can't stress this enough. We are completely over it, and you would be too. If you would, for 1 second, consider how it would feel if a woman came and sat next to a man, and he made videos about you and talked openly as if you had some ulterior motive of disrespecting him personally or his body, you would stop this behavior immediately. Anyone who perpetuates these ideas, male or female, has no regard for their fellow human or their feelings. I'm not trying to get on my soapbox, but women asked for this. You're asking for it every day. Then they come back like, oh, men don't ask us out. Oh, men are unhappy. Being called a creep all the time makes men feel awful, and it would make you feel awful too. I'll add one more thing. I'm a man over 40, and every time I see a woman under 30, she can't make eye contact with any man around her. You ladies have conditioned each other to be afraid all the time of someone being a creep, to the extent that you can't even enjoy being around men. We don't want to sit next to that on the bus. It radiates off of you. We can absolutely tell, just like anyone else could, how uncomfortable you feel. You don't want to stare. Your TikTok videos have told you that we're creeping on you or want to disrespect you. In my mid-40s, I have lived long enough to remember a time before all this social media and hive thinking, and it absolutely was not like this then. You have gotten exactly what you asked for. If none of this makes sense to you, then all you need to do is switch the genders and imagine how it would feel if you, as a woman with other women, were accused of objectifying and disrespecting all the men around you, to the point where men would stop even looking at you, speaking to you, much less going on a date with you or sitting beside you on the bus. Then imagine you making videos and talking openly about how you were too short, didn't make enough money, or couldn't explain things properly. Basically telling you that you were stupid and how no one would want to be around you at all. Story 11. You must have missed the whole Me Too and manspreading discussions. No man wants to go viral on social media because his leg touched a woman he was sitting next to. Story 12. We have been told a look is the same as a touch, and a touch is the same as rape. So complete avoidance is the only safe bet. I try not to even look in a woman's direction anymore, lest she try to call me out for leering at her. I will sit far away. Story 13. I do not want to be seen as a creep. I see the way people make assumptions. My daughter and I go places together, and about 60% of people refer to her as my girlfriend. I am made to feel creepy about spending time with my own daughter. Story 14. Most probably they do not want to be accused of being creeps, stalkers, or harassers. It is better to keep your distance at all times. Story 15. Between the Me Too movement and the extreme social influencers in gyms complaining, men often avoid situations where an unaccompanied female might falsely accuse them of inappropriate behavior. They fear being labeled as a creeper, pervert, or someone who was nearby. It feels like an invasion of personal space. I feel bad for young men trying to date. Story 16. Sits next to a woman. Oh my God. What a creep. What a pervert. Does not sit next to a woman. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. Why won't he just sit next to me? Cue Curb Your Enthusiasm theme. Story 17. There was a woman named Nora Vincent who spent 18 months living as a man. One of the moments that stood out to her the most was going on public transit during the daytime. She wasn't invading anyone's space or staring. She was simply existing. She saw every woman on the train perceive her as a threat and become defensive. She understood why they did it, as she did it herself, and fully supported them prioritizing their own safety, but admitted it hurt her soul to be constantly seen as a threat. This is a big part of it. We know that you don't know us personally, so you listen to the women in your lives and prioritize your own safety and peace of mind over our aching legs. Story 18. It has nothing to do with intimidation. It is just that men assume you are going to cause them problems. All it takes is one rude comment from you to ruin their day. So it is much easier to just avoid you. Think about it. If the man happens to look at you or makes the mistake of trying to talk to you, he might worry that you will pull out your phone and start ranting about misogynistic perverts who won't leave you alone, possibly showing his face to your followers and ruining his entire week. Or he can just avoid you entirely and never have to worry. Story 19. So they do not get called a creep or end up on some TikTok video by someone seeking attention. Men have ended up facing charges, being attacked, and so on over things like this. Story 20. Girl, everyone here is giving you the same answer, but you are either not getting it or just refusing to accept it. We do it because we do not want to be viewed as creeps. That is all there is to it. What is so hard to understand about it? What is it that you are failing to grasp here? Story 21. Why does your mind go to intimidation? It is not some sort of conspiracy. Furthermore, make up your mind. If you always get compliments on how you smell, isn't that enough for you? You are putting way too much thought into this. It is not that deep. You are not that important. Story 22. There is little to gain sitting next to a woman, but the hazards are enormous. Do not take it personally. It is not your fault. Story 23. I always get such a kick out of these desperate validation-seeking posts. Not to toot my own horn, but I am very good-looking. Everyone tells me how good I look and smell. Are all the men of the world intimidated by my stunning and paralyzing level of beauty and smell? Why don't they sit with me? I mean, if this question is even real to begin with, most people are probably barely noticing you in the first place, beyond maybe just seeing that you are there. Maybe you are attractive, or maybe you are not as attractive as you think. There are lots of other good-looking and good-smelling people around, and you probably do not stand out as much as you think. You are an 18-year-old. In fact, the reality is that most of us are mostly in our own world, just doing our own thing. The world does not revolve around you as much as you think. Story 24. I do not sit next to women on public transit if I can help it, for the same reason I slow down and put space between myself and a stranger if there is no one else around when walking at night. Story 25. Nobody likes being called a creep. When I was 17, I was called a creep for staring at a woman. There was a clock literally right behind her, and I was looking at the time. I am 37 now. I still remember that feeling of unnecessary shame. Story 26. High chance of being called a creep or accused of something. The chance of successfully starting a conversation is very low. The chance of being mistaken as someone who is somehow evil is high. It is better to sit away if we can. It is safer. Unless you are unusually handsome, men generally get treated as if they have the plague or are guilty of some kind of horrible original sin. Story 27. If I can avoid sitting next to people, I will. In a crowded situation, I try to find a spot that works best for me based on arbitrary, inconsistent standards. One thing I noticed from your post is that you did not specify that men specifically move to spots where there are other men. My experience with people tells me that I should not assume you paid attention to that detail, and that it is possible you only focused on the fact that men did not sit next to you. Could you elaborate on that if you can? Story 28. My friend, as someone who does not boast about my physical appearance, I sometimes avoid sitting next to people just because I prefer my own space. If it is a tight subway train seat, I am not going to force myself into your personal space just to accommodate myself, especially if it is a tight space and a woman is sitting there. However, if this exact scenario is what you speak of, you also should not have a stone face if someone walks past you. I will smile and ask, "Would you like a seat?" Inviting a stranger to not feel worried about being in my personal space for a temporary time. You have to be open, but no one is a mind reader. Story 29. Socially anxious in general and terrified of sitting next to the wrong person and ending up on the internet as a creep for minding my own business. Story 30. Honestly, many of us do not want to make women uncomfortable or risk being seen as creepy. It is not personal, and it is definitely not about how you look. Sometimes we are just tired, anxious, or keeping to ourselves. Not every silence is rejection or intimidation. Sometimes it is just respect. It is often said on social media that men are creeps for many reasons. The actual creeps do not listen to this because they are creeps. Genuine men take note of this and act accordingly. Story 31. It is to avoid misunderstandings. The fact that you immediately assumed it was intimidation means that you already implicitly understand this. You and many other women are eager to label men as predators regardless of their behavior, so many of us simply disengage. Story 32. It is a societal issue. All the feminist movements that have occurred in the last 60 to 70 years have been about empowering women. I am very happy that women are treated better than ever before. However, women now have so much power that it is nearly impossible to go unnoticed or unaffected. As a man, I only have to be walking down the street, and a woman can turn onto my path and start walking in front of me. Then, I am the one who has to change my behavior if I do not want her to feel uncomfortable or possibly start running out of fear, which has happened. By that measure, if I choose to sit next to a woman, there is a chance she might feel fear. I am 25 years old. Throughout my childhood, I was essentially made to fear women. Even though I had girlfriends, female friends, and met random girls, it was always in the back of my mind to be as delicate as possible to avoid being misunderstood or misinterpreted. This situation was reported in my country's news. When you observe women like the second one in the report, hopefully, that answers your question. Also, consider the millions of videos on social media platforms where there is a significant amount of hostility directed towards men. As much as women think we do not listen, we do. Story 33. Women, face the reality. We are actively avoiding you at all costs in public. We do not want to be near you, nor talk to you, or even stand by you. We are doing what you asked for, leaving you alone. Story 34. I avoid all conflict with strangers. If it is crowded, I will sit where available. If I have a choice between making a woman think I am sitting next to her on purpose or not sitting next to her, I choose the latter. Story 35. I avoid attractive girls for all the reasons mentioned here. They will either make an example of you if you glance their way or just look at you like a creep. Why deal with it? It is similar to when you look at a disturbed person in public transportation. Once you lock eyes, they are going to give you trouble. So do not look. Story 36. I have never avoided sitting next to or talking to a nice woman. Now, the whole trend on social media of girls or new feminists shaming men for looking at them, being physically close, or just passing nearby has affected you. Unfortunately, those are the times we are living in. Women indicate dislike or do not show availability to be approached by men or simply to be looked at, and then may feel bad because men avoid approaching or complimenting them. Honestly, it is not your fault. It is just broken social dynamics impacted by media. Story 37. I am not sitting next to anyone if I can help it. In your case, I would say they do it either out of respect or not wanting to seem like a creep. Maybe both. Story 38. Men have egos but rarely about their looks. At least most of us don't. Some guys are cocky, but we have proven that if two men at work compliment a female worker in the exact same way, women tend to label the less attractive one as creepy, while the one they find attractive is seen as normal and appropriate. So, if a man is unsure which category he falls into, why would he want to put himself in that position? Men already make up the majority of suicide rates, which speaks volumes about how we value our own worth. Especially with dating apps showing that women only swipe right on about 10 to 20% of men, usually the same men, the numbers do not add up. Men are not willing to risk being labeled as creepy and having their egos hurt beyond what they can handle. This is just one way to look at things. Story 39. Younger women and men are often avoidant because of how some women react when we are in their space. I am okay with a younger woman sitting next to me but don't feel comfortable with the other way around. Story 40. Public transport is one of those situations where you simply clear your mind. In my experience, I have had only 2 occasions where things got complicated. The first was when the bus was full, and there was a woman dressed somewhat provocatively. Another woman accused an older man of looking at her. The older man had no choice but to get off the bus, even though he had done nothing wrong. The second occasion was when I was sitting by the window on a long trip and had fallen asleep. An older woman sat next to me and started accusing me of invading her personal space. The real reason for the fuss was that she wanted the seat I was in. I played dumb and kept sleeping. The strangest part was that as the bus started to clear out, she eventually sat in the seat behind me. Then she came back and sat next to me again, waiting for me to get up, which was not going to happen because I still had another hour of travel ahead. Story 41. 1. As other people are saying, I do not want to be seen as a creep or make you uncomfortable. I have severe anxiety and I will be uncomfortable if I sit next to a stranger. Story 42. Every time I step outside my door, I live in constant fear of women. I am in danger at all times. Sitting next to one would be like taking a nap in the mouth of a dragon. Story 43. I would not sit next to you or anyone because I like my personal space. I cannot decide to have a stranger in my personal zone. I do not want anyone there. You can be the most attractive person, but once you invade my personal space, I will not like you. In my city, I see the opposite. Everyone wants to sit next to young, attractive women, mainly men aged 40 to 50. Those women are much more likely to sit next to another woman rather than a man. Story 44. I do not want to risk coming across as a creep. It is better that I leave the seat open for the creep when they show up because they want to sit there. Story 45. It is hard to fit into seats on public transport, at least here. My shoulders are wider than the seats, so I would inevitably be in your personal space. You probably will not appreciate some large person in your personal space, and other people usually mind less. I am not scaring them with my presence. Story 46. The phrase, "I gotta get up," it's a man is so cringe. I avoid it at all costs while she decides it is okay to stare at me. Story 47. Is it intimidation? For goodness sake. No one is intimidated by you. Not now, probably not ever. They are doing this out of consideration to avoid making you feel uncomfortable. Story 48. I sat next to the same attractive girl on the train a few times when it was crowded but never talked to her. Story 49. I am a friendly middle-aged married man who was seriously injured in the war, so not only am I as harmless as it gets, but I also have a good reason for wanting to sit down on public transportation. As strange as it is to admit, I would probably stand rather than take an empty seat next to an 18-year-old girl. Thinking about it, I guess it is the opposite of how girls are taught not to walk alone at night. While that advice is often spoken for many guys, it is unspoken. Do not make women and girls uncomfortable. In my own mind, a girl has to deal with unpleasant, creepy guys no matter what, so I try to avoid even appearing to be one of them. It is hard to put into words. Story 50. Maybe it's one of those Andrew Tate things like reverse psychology. If you think they are a pompous ass, you will give them attention, and that adds value in their minds. I would just ignore them and move on because there seems to be some weird mental head game going on. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.